This first question is asking us to solve by factoring. So when we're solving by factoring, we are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us the 12. Those same numbers need to add up to 7. So think about ways that you can multiply to get 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. 3 times 4 gives us 12. 3 plus 4 is 7. That means the factored form is x plus 3, x plus 4. You put those numbers exactly as they are when you found them in the parentheses. But then this equals 0. So if the first set of parentheses is 0, if x plus 3 has to equal 0, one of our answers is negative 3, because negative 3 plus 3 is 0. If the other one has to equal 0, we subtract 4 on both sides. X equals negative 4, because negative 4 plus 4 would give us 0. So our answers are negative 3 and negative 4. And when you type those in here, just use the minus sign on your keyboard, no spaces. Negative 3, negative 4. It doesn't matter which you put in which box. It will accept either answer in either box. Another one that we need to solve by factoring. First we need to get one side equal to 0. So you want to keep x squared positive. So I'm going to keep x squared on the left side. I'm going to add 4x on both sides and subtract 21 on both sides. So if you need to see that a little bit more in depth, we had x squared equals negative 4x plus 21. I added 4x on both sides. That's how I got the positive 4x. I subtracted 21 on both sides. That's how I got the negative 21. Now we are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us negative 21, and they need to add up to 4. So we can do 1 times 21. That's not going to help us. 2, 3 times 7. 3 times 7 is positive 21. We need negative 21, which means one of these needs to be negative. And if I want it to add up to a positive 4, the bigger number needs to be positive. So negative 3 plus 7 is 4. Our factored form is x minus 3, x plus 7. This set of parentheses will give us a solution of x equals positive 3. This set of parentheses will give us a solution x equals negative 7. So x equals positive 3 and negative 7. Remember, no spaces in between your minus sign and your number. This one also says solve the equation by factoring. It should not say that. It should just say solve the equation, I think, using square roots. So we have x minus 3 squared minus 16 equals 0. If it says something different on your screen, that's fine. I probably fixed this after I saw this. This is a problem that you would want to solve using square roots. You'd want to get the squared thing by itself. So we want, why won't my pen work? We want this thing on a side of the equation by itself. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides and get x minus 3 squared equals positive 16. Then I am going to square root both sides. When we put a square root in, we must put a plus minus in front of it. So on the left side, the square root and the square cancel each other out, leaving us with x minus 3. On the right side, we have plus or minus whatever the square root of 16 is, and that is 4. To finish this up, we need to add 3 on both sides. Now keep in mind, this problem is positive 4 plus 3 and negative 4 plus 3. So this is really positive 4 plus 3 and negative 4 plus 3. So our two answers are 7 and negative 1. Because if you do positive 4 plus 3, you get 7. If you do negative 4 plus 3, you get negative 1. So type in here, we want positive 7 and negative 1. Okay, this one, the directions are correct. Solve using the square root method. Again, you want to get the thing that is squared by itself. So we are going to add 9 to both sides. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2 so that that x minus 4 squared is by itself. Then we square root both sides. We have x minus 4 equals, over on the side, I will take the square root of 27 and see if I can simplify that. Remember, you want to pull out any perfect squares. So 27 we can divide by 9. The square root of 9 is 3. So this thing becomes 3 times the square root of 3. So I have plus minus 3 times the square root of 3. To finish this problem, we add 4 on both sides, and that plus 4 goes in front of the plus minus. So our answer is 4 plus minus 3 square root of 3. Now, using your answer eliminator, if you know that the square root of 27 is 3 times the square root of 3, you can go in here and say, I know it's not that one, and I know it's not that one. And then you can probably tell, because the original problem is x minus 4 in here, that it's not going to be negative 4. It's going to end up being positive 4 because you'll have to move that to the other side. So it does help you to kind of eliminate some of your answer choices. Feel free to use that method if you would like. Okay, this one is a multiple select. There are multiple correct answers. You need to choose all of them. And for a hint, there are 2 correct answers. So you're going to need to select 2 of these. This is factoring quadratic form. We approach this the same way we factor trinomials. We're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to give us 36. Those numbers need to add up to negative 13. Okay, 36 is kind of a tricky one because there's a lot of ways that you can multiply to get 36. 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, 6 times 6. I think 4 and 9 is going to work for us. Negative 4 times negative 9 is positive 36. Negative 4 plus negative 9 is negative 13. So normally we would do x minus 4, x minus 9. But because this is x to the 4th, this needs to be x squared and x squared. Remember, as a general rule of thumb, whatever exponent is on your middle term of the trinomial, that's the exponent that you want to use in your factored form. Now we have 2 equations to solve. X squared minus 4 equals 0, and x squared minus 9 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides and square root. Don't forget, though, you put the square root in, so you have to put a plus minus in there. That should be pretty obvious with your answer choices, but plus and minus 2 is one of your answers. Add 9 to both sides, square root, x equals positive or negative 3. If I wanted to make this more difficult, I would have put 0, 2, 3, 4, 9, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 9, but I guess I decided to go a little bit easy on you with those answer choices. Solve the equation by completing the square. The first part of this, x squared minus 4x, that's the beginning of a perfect square trinomial. The minus 1 is not the last part of a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to add 1 on both sides to get that negative 1 away from the beginnings of my perfect square trinomial. To figure out what this is a perfect square trinomial of, this middle number comes from doing 2 times something. That something is negative 2. That negative 2 is the number that you then need to square. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. So we're going to add 4 on both sides. Negative 2 was that kind of magical number, so x minus 2 squared, 1 plus 4 is 5. Now we can solve this using square roots like we've done on previous problems. X minus 2 equals positive or negative square root of 5. You can probably already tell what your correct answer is going to be. Add 2 on both sides to get 2 plus or minus the square root of 5. Now, same thing. Once you figure out that that right side is going to be the square root of 5, use your answer eliminator to eliminate the choices that you know are not correct. Then you at least have a higher chance of picking the correct answer. Quadratic formula. I am going to give you the quadratic formula on these. You just have to know how to use it. So in this problem, our A value is 1, our B value is 2, and our C value is 4. So x equals the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. I always do the stuff under the radical first. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4. I get negative 12. So I have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 all over 2. All right, now off to the side, I would take the square root of negative 12 and simplify that. I know there's a square root of negative 1, 4, and 3. I chose 4 because it's a perfect square. The square root of 4 is 2, square root of negative 1 is I, and that stays square root of 3. So this would correctly be 2I square root of 3. So really we have negative 2 plus or minus 2I square root of 3 all divided by 2. I want you to look at the whole number pieces here. We've got negative 2, 2, and 2. You can divide all of those by 2. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. 2I square root of 3 divided by 2 is 1I square root of 3. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. So our answer is negative 1 plus or minus I square root of 3. Another quadratic formula. This time you would have to rearrange it a little bit. So this is really x squared plus 6x minus 8 equals 0. So our A is 1, our B is 6, and our C is negative 8. X equals opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. In my calculator, 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8, I get the square root of 68. I'll bet we can simplify the square root of 68, so I'm going to try that here for a second. Square root of 68. Okay, not going to lie, it was a little bit frustrating, but I did find that 4 can be split out of it. So the square root of 4 is 2. That's 2 times the square root of 17. Okay, the 6, the negative 6, the 2, and the 2, we can divide all of those by 2. So negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 17. Okay, this last problem, I included it on the review. It is possible it's going to be a bonus question on the test, but it is not actually going to be on the test. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to fully write out the answer to this problem, and then I'll briefly explain it because I only have about 1 minute and 10 seconds left on my video. So h is the height of the baseball, and x is the horizontal distance from home plate. So you want to know how far this thing is from home plate. The ball hits the top of the outfield fence 10 feet high. So 10 is what we put in here in place of that h, but we need that to be a 0, so we subtract 10 on both sides. Okay, then we've got a, b, c. We're going to plug that into the quadratic formula. I did this stuff in my calculator to get this 1.3585. Here's the kicker. You have to do negative 1.19 plus that square root, hit enter, then divide by the negative. Do negative 1.19 minus the square root, hit enter, then divide by the negative 0.006. The two answers I got are 4.07 and 392.6. That one looks like the answer that we want, and that rounds to 393 feet.